There's something strange happening in the world of Bitcoin right now. And if you're an American approaching retirement with money in crypto, you need to hear this. Bitcoin was supposed to hit $200,000 by now. Every analyst, every prediction model, every chart pointed in that direction. Instead, it's stuck, stalled. And whispers are getting louder about manipulation, about banks deliberately keeping the price down, about a financial mechanism so dangerous it's being compared to the collapse of empires. They're calling it the death spiral. And it's not just some internet conspiracy theory anymore. This is real. This is happening. And your financial security might depend on understanding what's actually going on behind the curtain. Let me take you back to 1873, because what's happening with Bitcoin today has happened before, just with different players and different assets. The Ottoman Empire, one of the most powerful forces in history, borrowed massive amounts of gold from French and British banks. Everything seemed fine until the world hit a financial crisis. Sound familiar? Suddenly, interest rates skyrocketed, the Ottoman currency weakened, and they couldn't create new bonds to pay off the old ones. They defaulted. But here's where it gets interesting and terrifying. The banks didn't just write off the debt. They forced the Ottomans to create something called the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, essentially handing control of their entire tax system to foreign bankers. The empire lost sovereignty over its own money. Fast forward to 2010. Greece borrowed hundreds of billions of euros, money they couldn't print themselves. When their economy collapsed and borrowing costs exploded, they faced the same nightmare. The IMF forced them to create a special fund to sell off the country's most valuable assets just to pay debt. Airports, ports, infrastructure, all sold to the highest bidder. This pattern repeats throughout history. You borrow in an asset you can't control, the value of that asset rises against your ability to pay, and eventually, you're forced to sell everything just to survive. That's the death spiral. And right now, it's not just happening to countries. It's happening to companies holding Bitcoin, and the implications for every American investor are massive. Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy isn't just another tech company anymore. It's essentially a giant Bitcoin fund with a small software business attached to the side. They've accumulated around 650,000 Bitcoin, worth roughly $59 billion depending on when you check. That's 3% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, sitting on one company's balance sheet. Sounds impressive, right? It is. But here's what most people don't understand about how this machine actually works, and why it might be heading toward the exact same death spiral that crushed empires. MicroStrategy didn't buy all that Bitcoin with profits from selling software. They borrowed, they issued convertible bonds, they sold preferred shares, they raised debt in every way possible. Against that mountain of Bitcoin sits about $16 billion in obligations. Their loan-to-value ratio is only 11%, which sounds conservative. For context, 40 to 60% is considered normal in financial markets. But that 11% number hides something crucial. Every year, MicroStrategy owes about $800 million just in interest and preferred dividends. That's over $2 million per day, every single day, just to keep the machine running. Unlike regular stock dividends that companies can pause whenever they want, preferred dividends can't be turned off. Those investors bought what are essentially Bitcoin-linked bonds with a promise to get paid, and that promise is legally binding. Here's where it gets technical, but stay with me because this is the key to everything. MicroStrategy survives on something called MNAV, which stands for Multiple to Net Asset Value. In simple terms, it means their stock price needs to trade higher than the actual value of their Bitcoin holdings. When that happens, when investors are willing to pay a premium for MicroStrategy shares, the company can sell new stock and raise cash cheaply. That cash goes into a reserve fund, currently sitting at about $1.4 billion, which is what they use to pay those $800 million annual obligations. At today's burn rate, that reserve gives them roughly 21 months of coverage without touching a single Bitcoin. But here's the nightmare scenario that keeps Michael Saylor up at night. What happens when the stock trades below the value of their Bitcoin, when MNAV drops below 1? Their own presentation spells it out clearly. Above MNAV of 1, they sell stock at a premium and refill the cash reserves. below MNAV of 1, they stop issuing shares because that would be like selling Bitcoin at a discount, and instead, the cash pile starts draining. When that cash runs out, and they still owe $2 million per day, there's only one option left. Start selling Bitcoin. And once that selling starts, the spiral begins. Selling Bitcoin pushes the price down, which makes the company worth less, which means the stock falls further below MNAV, which forces them to sell even more Bitcoin later. It cascades, it compounds, and it doesn't stop until either the price recovers or the company collapses. Right now, we're watching two opposing forces battle it out in real time. On one side, there's the flywheel effect that's made MicroStrategy successful. Bitcoin price goes up, stock goes up, and NAV stays above 1, they issue more shares, buy more Bitcoin, price goes up again. It's a beautiful cycle when it works. On the other side, there's an incentive to keep the price suppressed, to keep that stock trading below the Bitcoin value for as long as possible. And with 21 months of cash runway, that's the window we're looking at. 21 months where if the stock stays underwater, if MNAV stays below 1, the pressure builds and builds until something has to break. Think about what that means for your portfolio. If you're holding Bitcoin as part of your retirement strategy, you're not just betting on adoption or institutional demand anymore. You're caught in a high-stakes game of financial chicken between the biggest corporate Bitcoin holder in the world and whoever's on the other side of that trade. Some people say it's JP Morgan. Some say it's hedge funds looking to buy Bitcoin cheaper than Michael Saylor did. Others say it's just market dynamics, nothing coordinated at all. But the effect is the same: pressure, tension, a ticking clock counting down to a potential forced liquidation that could crater the entire market. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. JP Morgan, one of the largest banks in the world, has published research that's brutally negative on MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. They've warned that if the stock falls far enough and stays there, MicroStrategy could get kicked out of major indexes, losing billions in institutional inflows. They've talked about refinancing risk, about structural problems, about how this whole model could implode. Now, you could read that as legitimate financial analysis. Or you could ask yourself why one of the world's most powerful banks would spend so much time and effort tearing down a company whose success threatens the traditional financial system they profit from. Here's what we know for sure. Jim Chanos, a famous hedge fund manager, has openly shorted MicroStrategy in the past. He's called Michael Saylor a salesman, said the whole thing is financial gibberish, predicted it would blow up. There are people with billions of dollars who would love to see this stock crash, either because they're betting against it or because they want to buy Bitcoin cheaper. Do I have proof of a coordinated bank attack? No. The public filings, the trading data, nothing shows a smoking gun. But would it surprise anyone if we found out later that major financial institutions were quietly working to suppress Bitcoin's price while they accumulate at lower levels? This has happened before. Gold, silver, currencies, commodities. History is full of examples where the big players manipulated markets for their own benefit. What feels different this time is the scale and the stakes. Bitcoin was supposed to be the escape hatch from the traditional financial system, the asset that banks couldn't control. But if they can crush the biggest corporate Bitcoin holder through market mechanics, through shorting, through spreading fear and negative sentiment, then maybe Bitcoin isn't as immune as we thought. Maybe the game is rigged the same way it's always been, just with new pieces on the board. While everyone's focused on MicroStrategy, there's another source of selling pressure that doesn't get enough attention: Bitcoin miners. These are the companies that secure the network, validate transactions, and earn newly minted Bitcoin as a reward. After the most recent halving event, miners now earn about 450 Bitcoin per day from the block subsidy. That's roughly $40 million worth of Bitcoin hitting the market every single day, whether the price is going up or down. But here's the problem. Mining isn't free. It costs money to run those machines, pay for electricity, maintain facilities, upgrade equipment. There's a break-even point called the all-in sustaining cost, or AISC, that determines whether a mining operation can stay in business. Right now, that number sits around $90,000 per Bitcoin. When the price trades above that level, miners can hold on to their Bitcoin, maybe even accumulate more. When it trades below, they're burning cash every day they keep the machines running. And unlike MicroStrategy, which has 21 months of reserves, most miners operate on much tighter margins. Research suggests that miners collectively hold around 50,000 Bitcoin in inventory. That sounds like a lot until you realize it's spread across hundreds of companies with different cost structures, different financing terms, different timelines. In a moderate stress scenario where Bitcoin stays below $90,000 for a couple months, miners might sell half their daily issuance, about 225 Bitcoin per day. In a severe scenario, they sell everything they mine plus start tapping into inventory, maybe 600 Bitcoin per day or more. That's real selling pressure, week after week, on top of whatever MicroStrategy might be forced to do. The math isn't infinite, though, and that's important to understand. Even in the worst-case scenario, miner selling is limited by the actual Bitcoin they have and the Bitcoin they earn. It's not bottomless, but it is relentless, and when combined with other sources of forced liquidation, it creates a grinding pressure that can push prices down steadily over time. For investors watching their portfolios, this isn't the dramatic crash that grabs headlines. It's the slow bleed that erodes value month after month, testing patience and conviction until people start selling just to stop the pain. MicroStrategy pioneered this Bitcoin treasury strategy, and for a while, it looked like genius. Dozens of companies tried to copy it. Nakamoto, a company founded specifically to follow in Michael Saylor's footsteps, merged with a healthcare company, bought almost 6,000 Bitcoin for around $700 million, and outlined plans to buy more through stock sales and debt. At one point, Nakamoto's stock traded at more than 20 times the value of its Bitcoin holdings. Investors were paying massive premiums just for exposure to the strategy. Then reality hit. Nakamoto's stock crashed 50% in a single day. From its peak, the stock is down 95%. Its MNAV collapsed to 0.7, meaning the company is now worth less than the Bitcoin it holds. This is the death spiral in real time, playing out exactly the way the research predicted. Without MicroStrategy's scale, reputation, and built-in demand from index funds, these newer companies raised capital on worse terms, took on more leverage, and are now facing margin calls and forced sales. And every Bitcoin they dump to meet obligations pushes the price down further, accelerating the spiral for everyone else in the same boat. David Bailey, who runs Nakamoto and advises President Trump on Bitcoin policy, tried to calm investors during the crash. He posted about building an aligned shareholder base, warned that more volatility was coming, basically told short-term traders to exit now, but the damage is done. The model is broken for everyone except maybe MicroStrategy, and even they're not immune. When smaller treasury companies implode and dump Bitcoin to survive, it doesn't just hurt them. It pulls down the entire market, including the big players who thought they were safe. This is a critical lesson for any American thinking about Bitcoin as a retirement asset. The companies you might invest in for Bitcoin exposure, the treasury strategies that sounded so innovative, many of them are built on financial structures that only work in a bull market. When conditions reverse, when the premium evaporates, the whole thing can unravel fast. It's not about whether Bitcoin has long-term value. It's about whether these specific companies can survive the short-term pressure without blowing up. If you're approaching retirement and you've put money into Bitcoin, either directly or through companies like MicroStrategy, you need to understand what's at stake here. This isn't about missing out on gains. This is about protecting what you've already built. The death spiral scenario, if it plays out, doesn't just mean Bitcoin drops 20 or 30%. It means a cascading series of forced liquidations where companies sell Bitcoin to meet obligations, pushing the price down, forcing more companies to sell, creating a feedback loop that could take the price far lower than anyone expects. Does that mean you should panic and sell everything tomorrow? No, but it does mean you need to be realistic about the risks. Bitcoin isn't just competing with other investments anymore. It's caught in a structural trap where the biggest holders are also the most vulnerable to forced selling. And if those holders break, the selling pressure could be enormous. For context, a severe miner liquidation might dump 600 Bitcoin per day. If MicroStrategy is forced to start selling to cover their obligations, they could add hundreds more. Nakamoto and other failing treasury companies add even more. Suddenly, you're looking at thousands of Bitcoin hitting the market every day, week after week, in an environment where buyers might be scarce because everyone sees the spiral happening. The smart move right now is diversification and vigilance. Don't put all your retirement savings in one asset, no matter how much you believe in it. Watch the warning signs. If MicroStrategy's MNAV stays below 1 for months, if their cash reserves start draining faster than expected, if more treasury companies start failing, those are red flags. You might not be able to time the bottom perfectly, but you can position yourself to survive the storm. And in financial markets, survival is often more important than optimization. Here's the thing about death spirals, though. They're painful, but they're also clarifying. Every financial bubble that bursts, every over-leveraged strategy that collapses, it clears out the weak hands and the bad ideas. What survives is usually stronger, more sustainable, built on better foundations. If the Bitcoin treasury model implodes, it doesn't mean Bitcoin dies. It might mean Bitcoin evolves beyond just being a store of value that companies hoard on their balance sheets. We're already seeing new projects emerge that treat Bitcoin as infrastructure, not just an asset. Layer 2 solutions that use Bitcoin's security but add speed and functionality. Cross-chain platforms that make Bitcoin compatible with other ecosystems. The innovation is shifting from how much Bitcoin can you accumulate to what can Bitcoin actually do. And that shift, if it accelerates, could be the real long-term story here. Not the collapse of MicroStrategy, but the transformation of Bitcoin from a static reserve asset into a dynamic network that powers real economic activity. For older investors who remember the dot-com crash, this might feel familiar. Back then, hundreds of internet companies with absurd valuations went bankrupt. But the internet didn't die. It just got rid of the garbage and rewarded the companies that had real business models. Amazon survived. Google thrived. The ones that were just speculative plays with no revenue disappeared. Bitcoin might be going through its own version of that shakeout right now. The treasury companies that are just leveraged bets on price appreciation, they might not make it. But Bitcoin as a technology, as a network, as a truly decentralized alternative to the traditional financial system that could emerge stronger. So where does this leave us? Is Bitcoin heading for a death spiral that destroys trillions in value, or is this just another test on the path to mass adoption? The honest answer is, we don't know yet. The mechanisms for a spiral are in place. The countdown is running. The pressure is building. But markets are unpredictable, and Bitcoin has survived predictions of its demise many times before. What we do know is this. The next 21 months are critical. That's how long MicroStrategy can survive without selling Bitcoin if their stock stays below net asset value. That's the window where miners face maximum pressure if prices stay below $90,000. That's when we'll find out whether the banks are actively suppressing Bitcoin or whether this is just natural market dynamics playing out. And for you, as someone trying to make smart financial decisions with your retirement savings, that's the timeline you need to watch. Don't get caught up in the tribalism of Bitcoin maximalism, where any criticism is treated as heresy. Don't ignore legitimate structural risks just because you want the price to go up. Be honest about what you're invested in and why. If you believe Bitcoin has long-term value as a hedge against inflation and currency debasement, then short-term volatility and even a death spiral scenario shouldn't change that thesis. You hold, you weather the storm, and you come out the other side. But if you're invested because you thought it was a quick path to wealth, because everyone said it was going to $200,000, then you might want to reconsider your position before the forced liquidations begin. The banks don't want you to understand this. They benefit from complexity, from keeping retail investors confused and scared. But the truth is simple. Bitcoin is in a high-stakes game right now, and the outcome will shape the next decade of crypto and possibly the future of money itself. Whether you're bullish or bearish, informed decisions beat blind faith every single time. This is the moment that separates the investors who understand what they own from the gamblers who are just along for the ride. The death spiral is real. The risks are real. But so is the potential if Bitcoin survives this test and comes out stronger. Your money, your future, your choice. Just make sure it's an informed one, because what happens in the next 21 months could change everything.